Controller updates, got the screens working on both of them this time. Let's get into it. All right, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy B Crow with X Producer B, coming at you today with some updates for these controllers. I haven't disappeared, but there's been a lot happening in the background. I'm working on some new controllers. I've gotten some new stuff here in the studio. I got the Push 2 with me now. MPC 1 is here with me. MPC Studio Black, and they've completely figured out all of that. So today I'm gonna give you an update, but instead of Ableton Live or Studio One, we're gonna be in FL Studio. We're gonna dive into some of the functionality I've discovered today, just to give you guys an update, and then I will be releasing these scripts on my Patreon site and probably my Spotify site, because Patreon's kind of bugging a little bit. I don't really like the way it works. So all of this stuff that I'm showing you today will be available eventually for you to use. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so we got FL Studio opened up here. One of the things I'm most excited about is that if you notice now on this thing, we have the screen that's working. This is the first time that we've been able to get the screen working, and now we got it working to where we can control what shows on the screen. That previously wasn't possible. Myself and some other developers online have kind of collaborated to figure out how the screen works, and so now we've been able to make the screen work in code without having to use any third-party libraries, which took a lot of development, and I had to be able to integrate that into the FL Studio pipeline. So I'm excited about that. It really does help out when you're using this controller with anything. And so I'll be implementing the screen functionality both in Studio One, in Ableton Live, and in FL Studio. And I've already done it in FL Studio using Python. And so, but when I was programming this controller, I realized the FL Studio API is not complete, and it doesn't give you all the features that you would want to have when you're making a controller work, such as modes and different responses and things related to the controller itself. Ableton, their framework really gives you a lot of the bare bones that you need to get started to program a controller, but FL Studio didn't have anything like that. So what I did with this is that while I was programming these two controllers, I made a framework that I'm going to open source, put it out to the community. Anybody that wants to build scripts using my framework, it makes programming controllers with FL Studio much easier than just going about it using those hundreds or thousands of lines of Python code that you had previously. So it'll help you out there. But let's get to some of the features of this thing. So the scroll wheel, first of all, there's two pad modes primarily. There's step sequence mode, then there's a play mode. The play mode plays notes. All right. So right now I'm on a kick drum, and you can see it's playing. And probably the coolest feature is a step sequencer, which the pads correspond to the step sequencer on the program. So if I play this little beat here, I have a kick drum, and I use these two side keys. I can switch over to the next part, and you'll see the red rectangle on the screen changes while I'm pressing these keys, and I can add in notes if I want to, you know. And you can also switch if you hold down a pad, it'll bring up the graph editor, and you can change the note that you're on. You can use the touch strip to do that. So I'm holding down the pad, I'm using the touch strip. I can change that. If I want to change maybe the velocity, all I have to do is press the touch strip button, and it will toggle or cycle between all the different things that I can change for this particular note. So using these features, it kind of mirrors what happens with the Akai Fire, but you can really dial in your step sequences as good as you want to. Also, when you change the channel with the scroll wheel, the channel, you'll see the channel, the track name, the channel name changes on the screen as well. So you can see what channel name you're in. If you only have this thing looking at the screen, you can see that that's changed over there. Also, every time you change, it'll update the name, and it'll show you what mode the pads are in. So you get some more physical feedback. If you scroll to a channel that is not a sampler, like it's a plugin, it'll change mode. Like this is the MPC mode, and in this controller, the pads have the pad colors of the kit that you're in. Okay, so I still have some mapping to work out there, but the pad colors correspond to whatever pad note you're playing, which I think is of course pretty cool and definitely necessary. So let me show you another cool feature that I programmed into this controller that I think kind of sets it off. If I go to Vital here, which is a synth, if you hit this button, it'll bring up, if you hit the jog wheel in channel mode, it'll bring up the plugin that you have. Also, this navigation section has modes in it too. You can have a browser mode that navigates your samples. And then if you press the jog wheel, you can load that sample. So there's also a program select mode. That is the playlist. This mode is for the mixer. So if you bring that up, it goes through the mixer. You can see my jog wheel now controls the channels, volumes. I can scroll through the different channels here. If I'm in this mode, if I go back to track, I'm back into the channel navigation mode. So it has three or four main navigation: channel, playlist, browser, and then the mixer. All right, so now I'm building out a basic beat, and there's some features I want to show you relative to that. So let me go to the browser here. Let's go to some plucks. All right. So I've got that loaded up here. And one of the things that I've built into this, first of all, if you are you say you had some hi-hats, if you don't want to program in, I've got some pretty cool features. The note repeat doesn't note repeat. If you press it, it'll automatically fill in every nth note. So that was every one. This is every second, every third, every fourth. I think it's every sixth, every eighth, every 10th, every 12th, every 16th, and so on. And so you can also press the erase and it'll erase them. So this makes it easy to get hi-hats in. You know what I'm saying? So you can get something pretty cool. Erase it, start all over again. Control the volume. Erase it. Maybe you want to start with something else. All right. It's okay, little groove. We got something to start with. What I think is really cool is that FL Studio has a way in their scripting API to introduce MIDI notes into it. So we can translate the MIDI notes before they get to the software, and we can also introduce our own MIDI notes. And so I've used that functionality to implement notes modes. And this is where the screen comes in handy because you can navigate up and down between the play modes. So right now, I have a play mode. I'm just in notes, but I can navigate through different scales. The chromatic scale. I can go to a major scale. I can go to a minor scale. Melodic. Harmonic. All right. So different scales you can go through just by pentatonic is my favorite. Okay, so it's pretty cool, but that's one mode. The next mode I have on there that's the notes. This is the chord mode, and so this does automatic chords, and it's bound to the scale that you're in. So if I go back to, let's switch the modes, back to notes, and let's go back to, back to the chromatic. If I go to my pad chords now. Okay, so now you kind of get it as minor, diminished, augmented, sus chords, lower not, sus 4, major 7. Okay, minor 7. So you kind of get the drift. All different types of chords, but also I have progressions that are programmed that are not bound to the chords themselves. I mean, to the scale itself. So these are just prefab chord progressions. Let's go to the next one. It's called progressions. You'll see a light up on there on the screen. It's called progressions. And now you can see the progression I'm on. I have a major scale. plucks are really harsh. Let me take the drive out of that. There we go. So look. Now I can go to the next progression, the minor scale, or I can go to major seventh. Really cool. All in the scale. Now if I want to change the root note, I just hold down shift and go up. Pretty cool. Now I got some cool progressions in here. There's even a musical one. There's major musical. All right, so this was kind of cool. Hey, lots of tools, cool, just progressions that are built in, pop progressions, R&B progressions. All right. R&B. I've even got some rock progression. All right. I've even got some trap progressions. Pretty cool. All right. So I think that's pretty cool stuff. Let's talk about some more features of the pad. That's mostly in play mode. If you go to an FPC, the mode will change automatically to show the pad colors of the current bake that you have selected. So that's the FPC mode. If you're in some of the mixer modes, well, I guess I should tell you what these buttons down here do on the side. The full level does what it says. It turns everything to full level. So it modifies it to where you send the highest velocity into the software that you can. These copy, pad, mute, 16 level, and erase. They don't really have functions native to FL Studio. So these are the modifier keys for whatever mode the pads are in. That's how I'm using them in this controller. The note repeat is, as I said, it toggles on various different notes. When you press erase, it goes back to the beginning, to the nth. So that's every one, and so on and so forth. And you can press erase to erase them all. The touch script controls what is being controlled by the touch script at the moment. So right now, by default, the touch script is controlling volume, but if you click it, it'll control the pan. Okay. And if you hold down a note, the touch script will control something in the graph editor, and then you can toggle what it's controlling by pressing the touch script while holding down the pad at the same time. So this is some pretty complex functionality, all made possible by the framework that I wrote to support this. And I'll show you why that was necessary here in just a second. So that's the MPC Studio Mk2. However, I also did the MPC Studio Black. And so let's plug this guy up and I'll show you, because I got this screen working too. Okay, let me make this full. So this device is very similar to the other device. I think the MPC Studio Mk2 is the predecessor, or excuse me, the successor to this device. It is similar in the functionality, however, it differs a lot. First thing you'll notice is that the screen differs. It's much bigger, but the resolution is not there. Also, it's not color. It's basically like a blue and white dot matrix type of screen. There's no RGB signal. It's just on and off pixels. 360 vertical, 96 horizontal pixels, which makes it pretty easy to generate code. Well, relatively easy to generate code. There's no particular formatting or anything that I had to do to figure out to get it. It's just on and off for each pixel. You figure out the encoding. You can send it to the device via 6x messages. However, the framework that I developed for FL Studio enabled me to quickly program this to work in the same manner. So the same functionality. You'll notice that there's a few differences about this controller. The pads themselves are not RGB. They're only red and green. There is no blue backlight on this. Also, the lights themselves, most of them don't only have one color to show, and they don't have a brightness. So it's either on or off for most of these colors. There are some of the buttons that have dual colors, 2 lights, but most of them only have one. I think the pad banks and some of them pad modes have dual colors. Some buttons don't even have colors, whereas pretty much every button on the MPC Studio Mk2 has colors, and it has brightness controls in it, to where you have a dim and you have a full, and you have a dim 2 and a full 2. On this one, you just have one controller. Also, what I like about this one that's not on the other one is that the knobs are here. And so we get some extra functionality with these knobs that aren't necessarily in the previous controller. So let's look into how I got this working with FL Studio, because it was a different beast, because I can put more on the screen. You can see that right here. So let's go here. So I've got FL Studio loaded up. I'm not going to focus too much on the pad modes and stuff. I want to focus really on the screen on this one, because that's the biggest change is the screen. So hopefully you can see the screen well enough to make out what I'm looking at here. Same thing goes. The jog wheel scrolls down between channels, except on here, when I go between the different channels, it shows the channel up here, but it also shows the pattern over here. It shows the current time over here, the song position. It also shows the mode, whether you're in song mode or you're in pattern mode, and you can switch that just over here. You'll see it changing on the screen, which is pretty cool. So I get much more feedback on the screen. Also, when I play something on the screen, you'll notice that there's meters in song mode. All right, so I'm in vital right now. That's the kick. Pretty cool. Let me go over here so I'm blow up. You can see it much bigger. All right, if I go to another channel, you see that there. Now, by default, it's really cool here because you can see what the knobs control. And if you want to scroll between those, you can. Right now, the knob mode is on channel, so it's going to control channel parameters. So if I want to change the volume, I can change the volume of this snare. You see kind of the fader going up and down. All right, if I want to go to the kick, same thing here. I can control the level of this kick. I can control the pan of the kick. And you see things kind of corresponding, which is different than the MPC Studio Mk2, because you get way more feedback opportunity with the screen. You can control the pitch of it. So if I want to change the pitch, all right, same controls that are in FL Studio. There's nothing new happening here. All it is controlling FL Studio's channel features. Also, the direction pad, only if you can see the direction pad down here, controls which track in the mixer it's linked to. So you can go up and down. You can see which track this is going to. So really, you get a lot of feedback just from the screen. If I want to mute the channel, I can mute it right there. I want to solo it, I can solo it right there. And any button that has F3 there, there's no functions assigned to those. But what is cool is this. If I go to another plugin, let's go to let's keep it here. I'll just scroll between this one. Right now, it's in channel mode. If I change the knob mode to plugin, it'll control things about the plugin, and it'll scroll between the various plugin parameters that I have pre-configured for each plugin. I kind of stole this functionality from the Novation people. I had to modify it a lot to get it to work with these knobs, but they have some presets for the plugin parameters, and I'm using that here. So here we are. This one controls the filter. Let me go to a hi-hat. You probably see that better. All right. Oh, I'm not using the hi-hat. All right. I can change the resonance. So it gives you some more tactile control over some parameters. which is amazing. And if I want to change the mode, I can go back to channel mode. Excuse me, this is in mixer mode, not implemented yet. But channel mode, I go back to the volume, and I can control the volume. And you can see the fader going up and down there corresponding to the knob. So, you know, the screen is much more capable in this than the other MPC Studio, which I like using this better with FL Studio than I do the MPC Studio Mk2, just because of the screen features. You don't have to look as much up at the program as you do with the other controller. So also, if I go to Vital, you'll notice that the pad modes change. Unlike the other one, the pad banks are up here. And so I have function keys, so I don't need to use those keys for anything. I'm using these to scroll between, but it implements the same scales and notes. If I want to go over to my chord progressions, I can do that, and you see what you're controlling right here. So if I want to go to major musical, I can do that. Same thing with full level, controls full level. Doesn't matter how hard I tap. Okay, the only difference between these pads and the other pads, these pads seem to be thinner, and also they're not full RGB. They're only red and green, and there's only a limited amount of that color spectrum. They're not controlled via sysx messages. They're actually controlled. They're controlled via CC messages that you send for the corresponding note of the pad. So, at any rate, this controller has the same functionality as the previous controller, with some additions, mainly the screen, the function keys, and these Q-Link knobs make all the difference in implementing this particular controller. Everything else, all the transports things work just the same as the previous controller. So I am excited about these two. I'm also, let me go ahead and grab some stuff here real quick. I'm also excited about this bad boy right here. This is probably the dopest controller on the market, hands down. This is the Ableton Push 2. I'm working on a script. Of course, it already works with Ableton, but I'm working on a script to get this. I'm halfway done with the script that'll get this working for FL Studio and Studio One. So that'll come out very, very soon. Unfortunately, I know how to make the screen work, and I have demo projects that I'm using. Scratch on it. Demo projects that I'm using to make the screen work. I want to implement my own DAW, DAW, doing that. That's a huge undertaking, but I think it's pretty cool. I can make the screen work, but it's not going to work in a scripting environment. You've got to actually write your own code in C++ or C or some other low-level language in order to get this to work, because you need to capture USB drivers to be able to push the code to this screen. But everything else, I can get it to work in the other programs, because Ableton did release a specification for this. There's no reverse engineering necessary. It's just to make it work. And so look out for scripts coming for this, the MPC Studio Black, the MPC Studio Mk2 for FL Studio. I'm also going to update the MPC Studio Mk2 for the screen to work in Ableton Live. And I'm going to release the same script I have for this MPC Studio 2 to the MPC Studio Black for Ableton Live. And all of these, of course, will work with FL Studio as well. So I got a lot of scripts I'm going to release here very soon. That's just a bit of an update. There's lots of things that I've been working on, lots of development that's gone into this, taking up a lot of time. So I'm about to close out this video here today. Look forward for these scripts to come. I'll be releasing them within the next week or so. You'll have a chance to go and download them yourself. And when I do get them out there, go ahead and grab them if you have these controller devices. If there's some other controllers you want me to support, I'm happy to do it. You got to help me get the hardware. If I don't have the hardware, I can't make anything work. So support me with the links below in this video. Thank you guys for listening to my update. I got some more coming. Look out for it. Until then, deuces.